Today for Fiction Friday, we're reading the first part of Chapter 8 of Master Frisky. Can you believe we're on Chapter 8 already? I can't. It's been a fun adventure reading this with you. Anyway, we had to split up this chapter into 2 parts because it is very long, but I promise that it will be worth the wait. Now, let's get started. Chapter 8, The Growl Box. My friend, the great organist, was to play in the city, and as I had not heard him for some time, of course I must go. So when the appointed night came, I shut Master Frisky securely, as I thought, in the barn, and started for town. It was a fine evening in early spring, and I walked slowly, enjoying the beauties of the fresh earth as I went. A will-o'-the-wisp was dancing over the meadows, and a chorus of frogs was singing away with might and main, the shrill piping of a mother frog and the deep bass of a father frog, with a host of aunts and cousins, all singing their merry spring song. My thoughts were very different, but they would have been entirely different had I not looked behind me and seen a naughty little dog following. Stopping when I stopped and going on when I did, and always keeping just out of sight. I had no sooner left Master Frisky in the barn than he began wondering where his master was going. Surely he was going somewhere. The new coat and hat said as much. But where? He had forgotten to take his doggie. He would watch and see. So he stood up on his hind legs and peeked out of the window. Master was going up the street, and that meant over to the city. The window was low, so this naughty dog took hold of the sash with his teeth and lifted it until he could get his paw under. And then putting his nose under the window and raising it, he got upon the sill, holding the window upon its back, and giving a quick spring was on the ground while the window came down with a bang. I had walked so slowly that I was late to the concert, so I took a back seat. I had barely got settled when I heard a familiar patter in the aisle, and to my great astonishment, Master Frisky trotted in and lay down at my feet and began licking my boots lest I should be angry with him, for he knew sure well that he had done wrong. At first he paid little attention to the music, which was soft and far away, but as it grew louder, he pricked up his ears and looked excited, and when the climax was reached, he jumped upon the seat beside me, and before I could stop him, barked loud and fiercely. I was terribly ashamed, for all the people turned and looked, so I took Master Frisky by the collar, and with one hand over his nose, that he might not bark again, I marched him out of the church. On the steps, I found a boy who for a quarter agreed to hold him until the concert was over. So I left him at his charge and went back to the music, feeling very mortified and guilty. When the time came to go home, Master Frisky followed me sheepishly, trying occasionally to attract my attention and get me to forgive him. But instead, when I got home, I punished him severely and put him to bed without patting his head, as I usually did. When he had been lying in the nest a few minutes, Dandy, our white cat, who thought of everything of the dog, sprang down from the hay and came and rubbed against him. "I am sorry you got a licking," he said. "What makes you be a naughty boy and have to be punished?" "I wasn't very bad," said Frisky. "A dog has to have some fun once in a while. But I have got a great secret to tell you." "What is it?" asked Dandy with interest. "I went with Master tonight to a place where a wicked man has got a terrible growl box." Dandy's eyes opened wide with astonishment, and he asked, "What is a growl box?" "You lie down beside me and get up very close so that I can whisper in your ear, and I will tell you all about it," said Frisky. "You know our master went to the city tonight, and I followed him." "What did you do that for?" asked Dandy. "It was naughty." "Oh, no, it wasn't. I thought he had forgotten me." Well, when we got there, we went into a big great house as large as 4 barns like this one, and there were lots of people. How many? Asked Dandy. 1,000,000, I guess, said Frisky. I found Master right near the door, and I went in and lay beside him, but he didn't look glad to see his doggie. I hadn't but just got there when there was the queerest noise a great ways off, and awful sad, like the noise that kittens make when Mr. Brown puts them in the boiler and killed them with some terrible smelling stuff. Then pretty quick it grew louder and louder, and then there were terrible growls mixed in with it, awful growls that made my hair stand up. The sound was as loud as 50 bears. Then I peeked up over the top of the pen where the master and I were, and I could see a man, a fierce-looking man with long hair. I guess he was an Injun. He was sitting on a long bench and kicking away under the growl box, and every little while he would reach down and pull something, and then the growling would get louder and louder. But pretty soon the growls got so loud and the long scary meow so sad that I barked right out fierce. Then Master grabbed me and carried me out, and he gripped my collar so tight I thought I would die. He gave me to a horrid boy to hold, and he went back into the large house. When he came out and started for home, he was very cross and would not say anything to me. And when you got home, he licked you, said Dandy. Yes, answered Frisky, but I did not mind that, for I have found out about the growl box. What do you think was in it? Asked Dandy. Dogs in one end and cats in the other, replied Frisky promptly. Dandy looked very much astonished. And what was the man doing? He asked. He was kicking at the dogs and pulling the cats' tails, and all these folks were hearing them growl and meow and thinking it was funny. How dreadful, said Dandy. I do not believe our master knew what that man was doing, or he would have stopped him. Perhaps he didn't, said Frisky, but I am sure that's what it was. Can't we do something to help them? Asked Dandy. That's what I have been thinking, said Frisky. We might go over some night and let them all out, and then they could run home to their folks. I know the way. The very thing, said Dandy. Let's go tomorrow night. All right, said Frisky, and we ought to go to bed right off, or we will be sleepy when the time comes. The friends rubbed noses and cuddling down together were soon fast asleep. The next night I locked Frisky in the barn as usual, and at the same time Dandy went to the loft to hunt rats, as I thought, but my guess was far from the truth. When the lights were all off in the house, Frisky opened the window, as he had done the night before, and he and Dandy started upon their errand of rescuing the poor dogs and cats from the growl box. Oh, how terribly exciting! Frisky and his friend Dandy are going to rescue some dogs and cats from the growl box. At least that's what they think they are going to do. I wonder how it will all turn out. I wish I had a kitty friend like Dandy, but all the cats I try to make friends with are scared of me. Imagine being scared of little old me. But I do come on very strong when I try to make friends, and I guess not all cats like being jumped at in the face. Oh well, that's how I say hi. Someday I'll find a playful kitty to make friends with, and we will be just as chummy as Frisky and Dandy and go on our own adventures. Stay tuned next Friday for the last part of this chapter, and be sure to join me on Monday for our next Music Monday song. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Bye.